We now know the points for all the units in the Chaos Codex and importantly the enhancements. So hypothetically, if you had seen a leaked version of the Codex, with this document you have all the information you need to play Chaos Space Marines in 10th edition. Despite all of the green colours, this is compared to the Codex points, not the previous index points. So even though Legionaries and Havocs are in green, their points are exactly the same as their index counterpart. The new unit, which is an old model, is the Cultist Firebrand, who comes in at 45 points. They have a heavy flamer that does d6 plus 3 hits, and much like the Infernus Marines, it causes the enemy to take a battle shock test if you've been hit by it. And because it auto hits, there's always going to be someone who got hit by it. They're going to struggle to be the best choice when compared to the Cult Commune. He is like the icon of the Cult Commune, but the Firebrand lets you reroll all leadership tests, not just Dark Pact tests. The Cult Commune just lets you reroll those Dark Pacts. So a battle shock test, he can reroll them, and that will include the Desperate Pacts of the Chaos Cult Detachment. So that is probably the only detachment you will see him in. There's 20 points difference and 4 wounds different, plus other abilities. And we're losing the 5+ invulnerable save and the ability to advance and charge and get +1 to hit and +1 to wound once per game. So yeah, only in the Chaos Cult Detachment. Unless you have the model and you think it's cool and you want to use it, then do it. The Accursed Cult has got a big drop in points from 210 to 170 for 16 of them, but they don't regenerate normally anymore, but we have ways, as I will explain later. The Cultist mob is the same at 50 points. So I see no reason not to include the special weapons that you have the models of, but are not in the Codex rules. Games Workshop seems to think they're no extra points, as the points for the unit have not gone down without them. So I'm going to keep using auto guns, las guns, a grenade launcher, a flamer and a heavy stubber, because otherwise they're just sitting on the shelf doing nothing. And tacked on at the bottom are the points for Index Emperor's Children, much like the Index release was tacked onto the Codex. There isn't anything special, it's just the Noise Marines and Lucius the Eternal moved out of this Codex and into their own index, but with no detachment. There is no new Emperor's Children detachment. They just have to use all of the Chaos Space Marine detachments, and I mean there are 8 of them, so that's got you pretty well covered, with the limitation that if you take the Packbound Zealots detachment, you have to have the Mark of Slaanesh on everything. All the other stratagems will still work, but not their better version. You'll be able to advance and charge with every unit, which you maybe don't necessarily want, and you'll get sustained hits on a 5+ in close combat. It's just kind of there, and suggests that there isn't really any upcoming codex for them, but there may be towards the end of this edition. So you still have nearly 2 years to wait for a separate Emperor's Children army. And then you can lose your Raptors and your Bikes and all your other units that remain in the Chaos Space Marine Codex that you won't be able to touch anymore. Maybe you can take this as a more golden time. Find the good bits. Like the enhancements of all the detachments. Now some of these are really cheap, which I was not expecting. And the cheap ones are the ones you'll want. Of course, a lot of the times you take enhancements because you have the points spare, but I want to focus on the good ones you want to include as part of a planned army build. The enhancements in the Packbound Zealots are worse versions of their index counterparts, so the Talisman of Burning Blood only gives bonuses above the +1 strength and +1 attack if you pass the Dark Pact, not if you make a Dark Pact. That's how the index version was. If you took them before, you'll probably still want them, but the Liber Hereticus for undivided characters is gone. If you want both abilities when you choose the Dark Pact, the lethal hits and the sustained hits, go Hugger Hellbrute. It always feels odd that that is the unit you want close, because I remember back in 3rd edition when the Chaos Codex itself recommended keeping it far from your forces in case it went crazy and attacked friendly troops. That could happen, and did happen pretty often. In the Veterans of the Long War detachment, Eager for Vengeance for 20 points is good. This is an underrated ability. You can get out of a tar pit and into your target enemy at full effectiveness. That is part of why the Chaos Chosen are so good. They can fall back and shoot and charge, and advance and charge. There's a lot. They can do a lot. Falling back and shooting and charging, that alone is worth 20 points. But if you fall back to go after your, let's say, Oath of Moment, the Focus of Hatred is the terminology used here, you get +1 to hit, and +1 to charge. This works even if you fell back and then attacked the Focus of Hatred again. I don't think much of the other enhancements. If you really rate them, let me know in the comments and I will reconsider for my own glorious raid into the corpse worshippers of the false gods. This is a battle accepted. Speaking of raiding, the Renegade Raiders detachment is a really good detachment, but not so much in its enhancements. The Tyrant's Lash only lets you shoot after falling back, so it is half as good as Eager for Vengeance. Even though they're in different detachments, they're the same points. I don't think it's worth it, even for a reroll to advance rolls. Dread Reaver is a good choice for a Raptor Lord, a Lord with a jump pack, re-rolling hit rolls and wound rolls within 12 inches of your opponent's deployment zone. Now that's not 12 inches of their board edge. It's basically half of the table. Their deployment zone plus another 12 inches. 15 points and you get full rerolls for that model is tempting. No need for the Lightning Claws. But the Despot's claim is too random for my liking. Mark of the Hound is pricey compared to others, at a cost of 25 points, but unusually for Scout, it also confers 2 models in the unit, giving the whole unit Scout. You also get Scout abilities in the Chaos Cult detachment. Warped Foresight is 10 points, because it only targets the character unit. So you add it to a Dark Apostle or a Demagogue that is joining the Accursed Cultists, then the Accursed Cultists can still Scout. That's how Scout works. Everyone in the unit needs to have Scout to be able to Scout. That's good for 10 points. To make those Accursed Cultists regenerate instead, you need the enhancement, the Amulet of Tainted Vigor, and it is 20 points. You get to bring back any of D3 models that are not characters. It could be 3 of the 3 Wound Torments coming back at full health. So lose them first unless you are taking incredibly high damage attacks like las cannons and melter guns. I think that is worth 20 points. I don't think you can bring back the Dark Apostles' little explosion attendants, the Dark Disciples, because as models they don't have the damned keyword, even if they are in a unit that has the damned keyword. And the Cultist brand calls them out specifically as models that are not damned. For 20 points, it's a lot to be rerolling Advance and Charge. It is most useful on a unit that can advance and charge, like the Accursed Cultist with the Dark Commune, but that is only once per game. It can still be a good idea, but it is the most expensive option. Its best use is on a unit that you want to have come from reserves that's going to charge. This detachment doesn't have to be exclusively about the Cultists, but most of these enhancements are about characters joining Accursed Cultists. I'm glad that they are generally cheap. The Incendiary Goad basically gives the unit +1 strength, because it'll be falling quickly below starting strength. And if you want to cheese speedrun to the +1 attack section as well, get rid of as many mutants as possible and keep the Torments, the opposite of what you do with the Amulet of Tainted Vigor. It doesn't have to be on a Firebrand, but if it was, and he was in a max-size unit of Accursed Cultists, once you lose 9 of the 10 mutants, the remaining 6 Torments get a nice bonus attack and a strength 6. So that's a maybe. The other detachment with bonuses to Cultists is actually more of a detachment with enhancements to the Chaos Lords. The Deceptors. The Cursed Fang gives bonus armor penetration and precision. It's very good for a Chaos Lord, because once per game he can boost his attacks and damage and armor penetration to make sure that that one really annoying character goes down. And this lets you hit the target you want without spending a command point on Epic Challenge. Even if you don't end up using the precision ability, the bonus armor penetration is nice for 10 points. Soul Link is 5 points. You give this to a lesser character like a Cult Demagogue in a Cult Commune. For 5 points they get a battle tactic for free, and can do once per game bonus damage. This only swaps the abilities of the units, not the profiles. It lets you do things that are really good. So if the Cult Commune was in a unit of Accursed Cultists, they could gain Prescience as if they were led by a sorcerer. A turn of being -1 to hit is good, and this isn't once per game or once per character. You could continue picking the same Chaos Lord, maybe not being able to use his Super Sweep Chance for Glory, because that model, the Cult Demagogue, has already used it, and as I read it, even if we took a Soul Link to a different Chaos Lord, we couldn't do another Chance for Glory as this poor Demagogue has already done that. But if you needed another version of a character, like you needed to support your vehicles but you only had a single Warpsmith, with Soul Link, another character can be a Warpsmith and repair vehicles, because they take on a copy of his abilities. The drawback is you lose the current ability for a battle round. So the Accursed Cultists, the hypothetical Demagogue is with, would lose their 5+ invulnerable save. Beware also that some abilities, like the Dark Apostle's ability, specify the unit containing a Dark Apostle model. You don't gain any keywords. But for 5 points, the amount of shenanigans you can do on a lesser character enjoying the benefits of leaders far above their station, that's fun. I would just take that. Falsehood as an enhancement is a little deceptive in its cost, for 10 points, but this is the Deceptors detachment. It lets you have a surprise Chaos Lord pop into a unit, but you kill a Legionary or a Chosen model in the process. That is the extra cost. If you know there's an enemy character you need to assassinate and you don't know where they're going to be, and your army has a lot of Legionaries which will be infiltrating in this detachment, it's very nice to be able to put them where you need them and then use Epic Challenge. But you can't use it to double up on unit characters, as you can't target an attached unit. The Dread Talons detachment also has a lot of shenanigans. Night Shroud gives stealth to a unit, -1 to hit is making a Lord into a mini sorcerer. That -1 to hit can be painful for a lot of armies, but unlike a sorcerer, this is only shooting attacks. It will help you get up the field, and it is cheaper than a Rhino. Going back into strategic reserves with a jump pack Lord and his unit is a better way of getting where you need to without getting hurt. It's just not as good as Warp Talons, which disappear in your turn. And the Chaos Lord with the jump pack can only join Raptors. Willbreaker is almost certainly a skip. It only causes a battle shock test and it is in the fight phase, so unless it is the enemy fight phase and you are on an objective and you wouldn't score it on your turn unless the enemy is battle shocked, even then they're probably going to pass the battle shock test. I don't think it's worth the 10 points unless you have absolutely nothing else to put in your army. Eater of Dread may be worth it, but will require playtesting. Are you able to have at least 2 enemies battle shocked so the roll is more likely to succeed than not? If I'm paying for something, I don't want it to be random unless it's wacky potentially superpowered random. You know, like Skaven. It's a detachment that's going a bit more for the fluff than for power. In the Fellhammer Siege Force, Iron Artifice is doing a similar thing. It won't help you against monsters, and being anti-fortification is a fluffy add-on. You don't see fortifications even casually as they're too expensive, both the models and the points. And not many people get excited about painting a wall. But Bastion Plate for 10 points is better. It works on any models in the unit, not just the bearer. And unlike similar rules like the one on the Lehman Russ, which is after a successful wound roll is assigned, this is after a failed save. Then you change the damage to 0. Always take this. And at once per battle round, not once per game, I was expecting this to be 30 points. If it saves the life of a Legionary or a Chosen, then it is worth the 10 points easily. And last is a Soulforged Warpack. Invigorated Mecha Tendrils is very good for your Warpsmith to keep up with vehicles and lets him help them out, not just the shooting ones that sit at the back. But I think Tempting Addendum is too much. It has so many requirements, because you're not giving this to a vehicle, you're giving it to a character who then needs to be within 3 inches of the vehicle. That's okay on cheap Firebrands and Cultists that hold an objective next to a Forge Fiend with all of its guns, including its face gun. But it is also conditional on Dark Pact, and if you fail, there are no rerolls for vehicles, because you can't take a cult icon. And then, you take an additional mortal wound, and you pay for this pain. Several times I've accidentally wiped out my own units with a Dark Pact. It won't fail on a 6+, will it? It won't fail on a reroll, will it? I won't lose all 3 wounds. More often, that has happened than statistics should allow. Did you take my luck? Did you? Did you though? If you took my luck, give it back. Or at least provide money for my digital tip jar. That's the Ko-fi link in the description and the blue words that are hovering at the bottom left of the video. 20 points for a Feel No Pain of 6+ on a vehicle can help it survive a lot of punishment and may be enough to keep it still alive on like 1 wound. It's only 1 vehicle in range, but it lasts the full battle round, unlike, say, the regeneration of the Tyranids, which can be used on monsters to give them a 5+ Feel No Pain, if they're in Synapse range, but it only lasts a phase. This is worth it. Soul Harvester less so, because it is random. For a last 15 points, it's good, as enemy units will die during the game, but they have to be destroyed within 12 inches. So you put it on a character that's going to get very close to the enemies. We will be revisiting the Chaos Space Marines, and I will look over my favourite detachments. The only metric that matters for detachments: do they suit you, and are they fun? I've already gone over the Chaos Cult detachment, which is indeed fun. My darlings and viewers, have a great day of 40k.